Hello and welcome, Sudoku friends, to a hot Sudoku puzzle on sudokuexchange.com's website. I immediately spot a couple of 2s blocking over here and a 2 blocking down here, so a 2 must go here. There are a couple of 5s blocking over like so, and there is a 5 blocking down here, so this square must be a 5. And therefore this square must be a 5 because we got a 5 blocking over here and 1 blocking down here. So this is a 5. And that puts a 5, of course, in this square. Now we need a 5 for one of these 2 squares and for one of these 2 squares. A couple of 1s blocking like so, and therefore this square must be a 1. And now we got a couple of 1s blocking across and 1 blocking down, so this square must be a 1 as well. And now that we scan upwards, we see that all of these squares are blocked by 1s, making this square 1. And therefore this is a 1. And now we have all the 1s in this grid. I notice that we only have 1 8 and 1 4 in this grid, and that is why they are pretty difficult to place. I know that an 8 blocks over here, so one of these must be an 8, and therefore an 8 must go here. But that's not really enough. And while I'm contemplating that, I'm looking at the 3 blocking over here and this 3 blocking here. So the 3 must go in this square. This 9 blocks down here, therefore a 9 must go either here or here. So a 9 for the first column can only go in this square because this 9 blocks the square here. So this is a 9. And that gives us a 9 for the top row in this square. This 9 blocks over here, therefore one of these squares must be a 9. And now we need a 9 for one of these 3 squares. And because of these 2 9s blocking, this is the only square available. This 9 closed a convenient gap so that the 4 blocks down here, and that mandates a 4 in one of these 2 squares, and therefore a 4 must go in this square here. And now we are looking at our second 8 in the grid because this 8 blocks down here, and therefore an 8 must go here. These 2 squares now must be a 6 and an 8. And therefore these 2 squares have to be a 3 and a 5. We know what these squares have to be because we know that these 2 squares have to be a 7 and a 6. And therefore these must be a 4 and a 3. Making these a 2, 6 and a 7. And we can't place any of them just yet. We can place a 9 in one of these 3 empty squares because the 9 blocks this square and this 9 blocks this square, therefore a 9 must go here. And now we are looking at a missing 6 and a missing 7 for these squares here, and we have a 6 blocking this square, so this is a 7, and therefore this is a 7 and this is a 6. These are still a 4 and an 8. This is also, of course, a 4 or an 8. And if nothing else, it means that a 8 will have to go in one of these 2 squares here. So these two being a 4 and an 8 means us to find a 2, 7, and a 6 for these squares here. Let's see, there's a 7 over here, so one of these must be a 7. The 6 must go in one of these squares here, and the 2 we can't say anything about, except maybe, let's see, there's a 2 blocking up here, right? So one of these must be a 2. And what does that do to us over here? It puts a 2 in one of these two squares, doesn't it? And we have a 2 blocking up here and the 2 blocking over here. One of these is a 2 and therefore one of these is a 2. Yes. So we got a 2 here and we got a 2 here. But it's not really solving anything. But remembering that I said that a 2 blocks up here and therefore a 2 must go in one of these two squares. We also have a 6 in the same row. So this square can only be a 7. Because as we recall, these have to be a 6 and an 8. Therefore, these must be a 5 and a 3. And therefore, these must be a 2, 6, and a 7. So now that we have a ghost 2 here and a 6 here blocking this square, it must be a 7. These are now 2 and 6. And now this 7 blocks over here, making one of these a 7. This 6 blocks over here, making one of these a 6. So in effect, we have a 6 and a 7 pair here. And that makes these two a 4 and an 8, which we can't solve at the moment. But if these are 6 and a 7, these are 4, 8, and 2. We still can't solve them, but now we know that this square has got to be a 3. And that automatically makes this square a 4. That was kind of neat, I think. So as we recall, these two squares must be a 4 and an 8. Therefore, this square cannot be a 4 and it cannot be an 8. The other digit that we needed for this row here is a 2. So it's got to be a 2. And this 2 now blocks up as does this, and this 2 blocks over. So a 2 must go here. These two squares now must be a 4 and an 8. Can we get any closer to that? I'm not sure. This is a 4 and an 8 blocking up here. So these two are both 4 and 8. And therefore, these must be a 7 and a 6. We have a 7 blocking in the row. So a 6 must go here and a 7 must go here. So along with the 8 that we already identified as being a candidate for one of these two squares, the other candidate now must be a 2. We do have a 2 in the column though, so the 8 must go here and the 2 must go here. And now we have resolved the 4 and an 8 for these two squares because the 8 blocks down, forcing a 4 to go here and an 8 here and a 4 here. There is something about row 2 that attracts me, and what attracts me is that we have a restriction here. This is a 4-8. We also have a 4-8 restriction here, so this can be a 4-8, but this cannot be a 4-8. This here is a 6-8. And this square cannot be, it cannot be a 1, 2, 3, but it could be a 4, not a 5, but it could be a 6, not a 7, 8, or 9. So this is a 4, 6. This is a 4, 8. This is an 8, 6. So these three squares are a 4, 6, 8 triple. Can we do something with that? What we usually have to do is figure out what the remaining three cells then have to be. If these are 4, 6, 8, the remaining cells must be a 3, 5, and a 7. And that doesn't immediately lead to anything. I fear that this is going to end up with some sort of a chain, the likes of which I'm not very good at solving. So at this point, I'm tempted to input pencil marks, and the Snyder absolutely won't suffice here. So I will input values to cells that can contain exactly 2 digits. So I'll start with these, and they will have to be a 4-8. We knew that. These will be a 4-8. We got a 6-7 here. We got a 2-6 here. We know that this is a 4-6 because we found that out. This is also what happened here. Okay, so I need to change the way that I do this. So this was not a 6, it was a 4-6, right? And this is a 4-8, like so. And what did we say this was? Was a 6-8, because this is also a 6-8. And these two squares are a 3-5, like so. So down here we are looking for 8, 9, and a 6. There's a 6 here, so this is an 8, 9. There's a 9 here, so this is a 6, 8. There's an 8 here, so this is a 6, 9. Lots of bi-value cells. That is nice. So now let's see what we can do. This row here, we need to find 2, 4, 6, 7, 9. 2, 4. I don't seem to be able to input anything here if I want to go with bi-value cells only. So let's look at the middle row instead. We need a 2, 3, 6, 7, 8. 2, 6, no. 3, 7, 2, 8. No, we can't do anything here. So let's look at these two squares. We need to find a 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 for this row. We got 5, 6, 8 here. So this is a 3, 4. And that's it, I think. But what about the vertical direction here? We already have 5 givens. So in addition to those, we need to find 2, 4, 6, 8. There's a 4 and a 6 blocking here. So this is a 2, 8. There's a 6 and an 8 blocking here. So this is a 2, 4. So let's look at column 4. 3, 4, 7, 8, 9. 3, 8. No. 9, 4. No, doesn't seem possible. So let's see if we can do anything with what we have here. There is a symbiosis, I think, between the 2, 4, 6, and the 7s, because if this square here is a 4, this square must be a 2. If this is a 2, then this is a 6, and this is a 7, this is a 6, and this is a 2. And this, by the way, is a 6. And if this is not a 4, then it is a 6. And therefore, this is an 8, and this is a 9, this is a 6. and this is a 2, making this a 6, this a 2, and this must be a 4. So both choices seem to be valid. A 4 and a 6 will both lead to something that is not colliding with something else, as far as I can tell. So I'll have to find something else to look at. There is something fishy going on. And what's going on is that I need to fill in some more pencil marks, really not that obvious. So in order to make this clear, I'm going to fill in the rest of the pencil marks for this row here. This square cannot be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It can be a 7 and it can be a 9. This square cannot be a 1, 2, 3, can be a 4, can not be a 5, 6, it can be a 7, but not an 8, but it can be a 9. So now we have all the pencil marks for this row here. And just to be on the safe side, no, I don't want to mess this up any more than I have to, but I'm still looking at the 4 and the 6s here. Let's imagine that this is a 6, shall we? If this is a 6, it is clear that this cannot be a 6. And therefore this must be a 6. I think that is clear, right? If this is not a 6, then it is a 4, because it can only be a 4 or a 6. So if this is a 4, then this here must be a 2. If this is a 2, then this is a 6. If this is a 6, then this is a 7. If this is a 7, then this must be a 9. If this is a 9, then this is a 6. So whichever way we look at it, one of these two squares must be a 6. And that means that this square has got to be an 8. Let's see if that solves the puzzle for us, because sometimes it's just one chain or one X-wing or one whatever that solves a puzzle for us. Let's see, we have 8 blocking up and down and over, so this square must be an 8. This square now can only be a 2 because we have a 1 already, 3, 4 in one of these squares here, and also 4 here, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So this is a 2. Therefore, this is a 2, and I think that this puzzle now crumbles. And if not, then I did something wrong with my chain, which is entirely possible. But I really don't think so, because it was complicated to look at. But once you start looking at the 4 and the 6 here, it becomes clear that either this square or this square must be a 6. And therefore, this square that can see both of these two squares couldn't be a 6. And the only other value was an 8. So let's continue to fill in the remaining digits here and see what happens. This must be a 4 now, and this must be a 6. And a 7 here and a 9 here. I didn't fill in the pencil marks for this square, but it's pretty clear now that it's got to be a 3. These two squares now must be a 5 and a 7. We have a 7 in the row, so the 5 has to go here and the 7 here. And that gives us a 5 over here, leaving a 3 for this square, a 8 for this, and a 6 for this. And since we found the 8 here now, we know that this is a 4 and this is an 8. These have to be 4s and 8s, and they switcheroos here. So this is a 4 and this is an 8. This must be a 4. This last square has got to be a 3. Yes, that is satisfying. But in my case, it's usually up to luck whether I find a chain or not, because I'm really not good at chains. But once we reduce the pencil marks to by value cells, by this I mean cells that can take only 2 values, then the task becomes somewhat easier. And as we could see, once I spotted it, it was quite obvious that a 6 had to go in either one square or another. I really had to enter the pencil marks before I could see it clearly. I hope you could see it clearly too, and that you enjoyed it, and that you will come back for more soon. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.